Hello, everybody, and welcome to an emergency podcast live from the Xfinity mobile studio, presented by Bet365 and Xfinity. But Wulf, EJ Smith, EJ, you're still in the studio. You've been sleeping there, waiting for news, and we have it. What is it?
The Eagles have hired an offensive coordinator. It is Sean Mannion.
The Mannion in the mirror.
the Mannion they need, maybe, perhaps. We'll
Joanna
find out.
Mannion.
Boys to Mannion, I think, was my favorite.
Ooh, that's good.
He is the 33-year-old. He previously was the Packers quarterbacks coach. He has just 1 year of experience as a quarterbacks coach. Before that, he was an offensive assistant for one season with the Green Bay Packers. Doesn't have a ton of coaching experience, Sean Mannion, but he does have a lot of playing experience with some of the leading minds in the NFL. So he has played for really a who's who of different coaches across the NFL, but the ones I think are most pertinent, Sean McVay, he was a backup quarterback with the Rams. Under Sean McVay, he was a backup quarterback with the Minnesota Vikings under Kevin O'Connell, and he spent time with Matt LaFleur on the coaching staff. So more experience in the playing, or like as a backup quarterback in the room with some of these coaches, but very new to coaching.
It is no doubt a very interesting hire, given what the Eagles are, where they are roster wise in terms of the offense, and where they are in terms of Nick Sirianni in his head coaching life cycle. And so to discard Kevin Patullo after a down season on offense and not land the top candidates in Mike McDaniel, who I think we agree they were very interested in, Brian Dable interested in to a lesser degree, then you canvass the league, and it's not just play callers. It is younger guys. I think given the fact that they are hiring Sean Mannion, I'm a little bit surprised they didn't interview more guys of this ilk, if that makes sense. It was basically him and Declan Doyle on the young guys who haven't called plays front.
And you know what, really quick,
Gerard Johnson as well.
I've got some. I can break a little bit of news here. Sean Mannion is expected to call plays for the Eagles next season.
Oh, a scoop!
So, I think it was fair to wonder, somebody who didn't have play calling experience, if he, would have ceded that responsibility to Nick Sirianni. But Nick Sirianni, obviously, we know values being able to manage games, be able to kind of handle the overall, be the CEO on the sideline necessarily. So, Sean Mannion is expected to be the play caller.
Wow. How about that? Please credit Eagles insider EJ Smith of PHLY.com. That's huge. And I mean, thank God, as far as Eagles fans are concerned, right? That's the reason you expect that he's coming in. And so now listen, we said at the beginning of last season, Kevin Patullo's never called plays before. He probably deserves some grace in terms of, this is a thing that's going to take some time to learn. We'll see if the same is extended to, or the lack thereof is extended to Sean Mannion. But the Eagles, no doubt, are trying to get ahead of this and in some way trying to solve. I think we both agreed that trying to solve for having a guy who's going to be here for a long time is a silly thing to do. I think you could see themselves talking themselves into this being part of it. But I bet if Sean Mannion if the Eagles have an awesome year this year, people are going to be interested in hiring him, right?
Oh, absolutely. That is one of my big picture takeaways with this, is that I think they're hiring Sean Mannion a year earlier than he was really going to hit the coaching cycle hard, where he was going to be one of the en vogue names. Davis Webb, even Declan Doyle are examples of coaches. Obviously, Davis Webb even more so as an example of a coach that is very much in demand because of being a couple of years into their coaching experience. Sean Mannion has one fewer year of coaching experience than Davis Webb, but again, if you think about his playing experience, kind of balances out. But my overarching takeaway here is that if Sean Mannion does a great job calling plays for the Eagles offense, he still will be viewed as a potential head coaching candidate. His age isn't going to be, something that scares people away. You know what I mean? It's like, if he is who the Eagles hope he is, he will be a head coach, and I would guess the Eagles would be okay with that.
I think that's, I mean, certainly if he's a head coach, they'll be happy because it means they will have had success. I'm trying to think of this here, and the plan with hiring Sean Mannion. because we talked about, he's only been a coach for 2 years, so he doesn't sound like he has a bunch of friends who are coaches necessarily. So I would imagine, guessing, this is probably good news for some of the holdovers on the offensive staff that they may be staying. It's also, he's never installed an offense. He's never put together his own offense. I almost feel like the hope from the Eagles' perspective is less about the offense that Sean Mannion is bringing and more thinking this is a guy who we think can read a game really well and call plays really well in games. That's pure speculation.
Yeah, it's something we talked about a lot on the show in the last few days, is that there are going to be a lot of questions about Sean Mannion. We do not have a full evaluation of him in the role he is going to take on, and neither do the Eagles. Let's be clear. They will have been on a fact-finding mission in the interview process to find out what his feel for games is like. And I'm sure that, that's also something asking around the league about him that you could try to find out, and again, like him on the whiteboard, him talking through his vision for the offense. These are all really important elements of this job, being able to navigate, Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts, being able to command a room with those two figures in the room. They'll have a better idea than we do about that. I think if you trust the Eagles' evaluation of coaches in these types of scenarios, in these types of settings, then I do think that, they've kind of earned the benefit of the doubt in that regard. But again, these are unknowns. It is a big projection of a hire.
No doubt. And reportedly, they had Gerard Johnson in for a second interview as well today, right? So that would mean Gerard Johnson, Jim Bob Cooter, Josh Grizzard, and Sean Mannion were the finalists, as it were. And of those four, sight unseen, is this the one that you would have wanted?
It's an interesting question. I mean, I would have probably prioritized play calling experience.
This is such a mystery box. We
yes.
We have no idea. There's no way to even evaluate what kind of job he did this year.
Yeah, exactly. No, I mean, I was going through some of the stats for the Packers offense, but it really is hard to attribute that to the first year quarterbacks coach. Obviously, when you think of the coaches that he played for, and I will answer your question, I promise, but when you think of the coaches that he played for and the coaches that he's worked underneath, I think it's fair to expect a play action heavy offense, an offense that is aggressive in terms of like neutral passing situations. Some of the McVay Shanahan tree, you'll see a lot of under center, a lot of heavy personnel usage to try and open up the middle of the field. I'm not sure that is like a constant enough to know for certain that that's something that Sean Mannion will bring. I think the things you can feel good about in terms of what Sean Mannion's philosophies are based off of who he's worked for is that this is going to be a play action focused offense, an offense that is focused on marrying the run and the pass game together and making that a really large component of the offense. Now, again, going back to what I would have, if you had asked me, like, who among those finalists would you prioritize? I probably would have went with somebody with play calling experience. It probably would have been Josh Grizzard. But again, the Eagles will have more information on what Sean Mannion is going to be like as a play caller and as the leading voice in the offensive meeting room than I do.
I think of those four candidates, I'm okay with Mannion. And it's the reason that it's probably the one I would have picked. Just total mystery box. And it's the reason that it's the thing we talked about with the professor last week, that this team is no longer necessarily in a spot where on offense, competency is going to do it and the talent is going to override everything else. I think you need to invite some variance. You want to swing for upside. And without ever having talked to him before in my life, I believe that his track record gives you the most upside, or like, the theory of it, at least. So
yeah, no, I mean, there is
interesting. There's no way that they went into this process expecting to land here.
Oh, absolutely. I think that it's been very reminiscent of the Nick Sirianni coaching search, where the first wave of candidates went elsewhere and they cast a wide net. They, picked the brains of a lot of, again, coaches that maybe were a year or two away from really being top emerging candidates. And they clearly were impressed with what they saw from Sean Mannion. I have a quote from Nick Sirianni on the Eagles website here. Okay. He said, "It was quickly apparent in meeting with Sean that he is a bright young coach with a tremendous future ahead of him in this league. I was impressed by his systematic views on offensive football and his strategic approach. Sean's 11 years in the NFL have provided him a great opportunity to learn from and grow alongside some of the best coaches in the game. Some of those coaches we mentioned: Sean McVay, Matt LaFleur, Zach Taylor, Gary Kubiak, Kevin Stefanski, Clint Kubiak, your boy KK, Dave Canales, and Grant Udinsky are also coaches that he has played under in his career.
Interesting.
Yeah.
A Mannion, a Planion, a Canyonal.
The Mannion with the Planion. Would that have been your thumbnail text?
How about Thugs Mannion?
The listeners behind the curtain here, would you have made it the Mannion with the Planion?
No. I think on this one you gotta grab SEO. This is
straight news.
You gotta just get Sean Mannion, Eagles offensive coordinator, in there.
Yeah. Who do you think? I'm going to put you on the spot. Who do you think is the biggest winner from the Sean Mannion hire? I've got someone in mind.
That's a good question.
I could go one of two ways, but I've got someone I'm going to pick here. Excellent podcasting. Is it going to be AJ Brown, DeVonta Smith, Jalen Hurts, one of the offensive linemen, Saquon Barkley? Are you going to go Nick Sirianni? It's not Tanner McKee.
I think it's. I don't know. I don't know that there is a winner from this other than Sean Mannion, because think about it. Well, I want to say Howie Roseman, but because he's continued to consolidate power. But I think they were probably underwhelmed by the way that they seem to be viewed around the league through this process. I think it was a net negative result for them. I think the same thing is probably true for Nick. And if you believe that Nick is on a 1 year prove it kind of situation, bringing in an unproven guy, I don't know that that's a win for him. I don't know that Sean Mannion has the gravitas to come in and be like, oh, AJ Brown is going to want to stay now because Sean Mannion's here. I don't know. It's impossible to say what this means for Jalen Hurts.
Yes, Jalen's a tough one here.
I feel like DeVonta is like the winner of any kind of offensive trade, just because he's the guy who has the most untapped upside, probably.
DeVonta was the first one to come to mind for me. But I think the other one that comes to mind is if AJ Brown stays, I think he is a big winner in at least the idea that we are the very, basic fundamental ideas that we have of what Sean Mannion is going to how he's going to want to operate on offense. I think if you put AJ Brown in a play action heavy system that tries to leverage the middle of the field in the way that we've seen Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan and Matt LaFleur offenses operate, I do think AJ Brown could be a big winner from this. Now, that's not to say he's going to be, because we don't know if he's going to be here next season, but at least like the profile of player that AJ Brown is, I do think that he would be a big winner with this hire if it is an offense that we expect it to look like under Sean Mannion.
I'm trying to think of the other quarterbacks, the other coaches Jalen Hurts has worked with who have played quarterback in the league.
So it's Brian Johnson.
Did Brian Johnson ever play in the league? He just played at Florida, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, he didn't.
Alex Tanny.
Yeah. Doug Nussmeier's son played it. Oh no, Doug Nussmeier. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Doug Nussmeier's son is going to play in the league, presumably.
Right.
Is what I was going to say. But yeah, Doug Nussmeier.
Okay. So I don't know if that's a thing.
I mean, Doug Peterson.
Doug Peterson. True.
Yeah. I mean, in theory,
it's very interesting. The biggest question to me, in terms of the unanswered nature of this whole
Kellen
thing.
Moore, also, obviously.
Okay, so there have been a lot.
Yeah, go on. Sorry.
The biggest question to me, in terms of the unanswered, like what's this going to look like, is how much grace is Nick Sirianni going to give Sean Mannion to make this thing his own before he wants to be involved more. That's the thing that it's all about.
Yeah, especially there's going to be urgency next season. And when you hire an unknown at offensive coordinator, there's going to be, some volatility, and it might take him time. It really is like when Shane Steichen took over play calling a few years ago. I've said this before, like it is what stood out to me was him, like the passion that he had for play calling, the art of it. And, maybe we have conversations with Sean Mannion and it's obvious that he's got that same approach, but I do think that there is a learning curve to sequencing plays. The first 15, I'm sure that Sean Mannion's been in a lot of meeting rooms where they've gone over the first 15, and he probably feels really good about that. But that's not really what the Eagles struggled with this year. They struggled with like the in-game adjustments, the feel for the game, and that is going to be a big unknown. So no, there's going to be urgency next year. So no, I do think that is a big question. My biggest question before, when we started the show was who's going to call plays, because I did think that there was a window there for Nick Sirianni to step in, and obviously, again, we expect Sean Mannion to be the play caller. He is expected to call plays in the next season. Yeah, I mean, fine, okay. I appreciate it. But there is going to be that window that opens, that could open eventually for Nick Sirianni to become more involved. I think if you're bringing in Sean Mannion, you're bringing him in from a coaching tree that is so distinctly different than what we've seen the Eagles offense run in the past. I think they have to resist that urge, though. I think they will really need to let him install the offense that he has envisioned, because he's not well-versed in like an Indianapolis Colts, Phillip Rivers inspired offense. He is coming from a tree Eagles have obviously been very interested in, but yeah, it's a very different one than the one we're used to seeing.
This is everything about this is conjecture. Well, not everything. You have good reporting here, but I'm squinting at this and thinking this is the kind of hire you make if you do expect there to be significant turnover on offense.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we are expecting that. Howie Roseman sort of foreshadowed an offseason of transition for the Eagles offense. And I think it's going to be built in the image similar to the way that the Eagles defense pivoted under Vic Fangio, really prioritized the secondary and added Quinion Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. You could see something similar on the offensive side, personnel that fit a play action heavy. I mean, based off of McVay and Shanahan, you'd expect a lot of outside zone. That's really not something we've seen the Eagles major in necessarily. It's been a part of their plan in the run game, but no, I do think there's a chance that you see, personnel that fit that vision that Sean Mannion's going to have here.
All right. Very exciting. Very interesting stuff. Sean Mannion, do you have any final thoughts that you want to get off your chest? We're gonna get to work after this. Maybe hopefully get some guests on tomorrow's show at 2:00 who can give us some more information on Sean Mannion. We'll get to work on that. But before that, EJ, any final thoughts before we go?
Yeah, I think it is going to be, there's a lot of projection with the hire. It's going to be really interesting to see exactly what Sean Mannion's offensive vision is. We have a lot of unknowns, but I do think that, the Eagles have earned the benefit of the doubt to a certain degree to hire someone that they feel like was a year away from being one of the top candidates on the market. So I think that even though the search was prolonged and it's clear that they missed out on some of their top candidates, I do think that, Sean Mannion still is an interesting name to bring into this. And I think that there's a real chance. And I guess like the biggest takeaway I have is that this Eagles offense is going to look significantly different next year. And they're entrusting Sean Mannion to do that.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. The Eagles' track record of hiring an outside offensive coordinator. I whiffed on the past quarterbacks before, but I can't think of a miss there in recent memory. So they deserve a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, no doubt. Some super chats. Pat Phoenix, gimme a Mannion after midnight. Won't somebody help me chase the hitches away?
That's really good. Shout out to Pat Phoenix. It's better than what we came up with.
Super chat from LB. Do you think Jalen, EJ, was in the room during any of the interviews?
It's an interesting question. I do not know the answer, so this is going to be a guess. I know that Josh Allen was obviously like a big part of the Bills head coaching search, and we heard from Jalen at the end of the season, and he said his line would be open and that he, would welcome influence in this decision. I would guess that if he was in the meeting rooms, we probably would have heard it. So my guess is he wasn't, but I'm sure that Jalen's desires and input were probably taken into account to some degree. Maybe not weighted much more highly than other prominent figures in the locker room or obviously even across the organization, but I'm sure that Jalen, what he wanted for the offense was taken into account. What's your biggest takeaway, Bo?
My biggest takeaway is that this reflects them having gone through the process in earnest, without a non-Mike McDaniel landing spot in mind. I think we'll see how it works out. I believe that this was the result of good process after they missed out on their top choices.
Yeah,
and we'll see.
I
We'll
agree.
see how it happens. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and I think like the thing I'll be thinking about on my drive home is what you mentioned earlier, which is that this is going to be a major transition for the Eagles offense. You know, this is a coaching change, and then again, there will be personnel changes. I mean, they have to overhaul on an offense. I think that this is probably the first step toward it, but not the last. You know, in free agency and the draft, I think we'll see moves that coincide with this.
My other big takeaway is I believe Sean Mannion looks like, shout out to my former English teacher in high school, a young Ted Heinz. So
Ted,
shout out to Mr. Heinz.
Oh, like he looks like your English teacher.
Yes.
He looks like somebody in the chat says he looks like Jesse Pinkman. Now you don't know who that is because you didn't watch Breaking Bad.
I think I know who that is. He doesn't look like him. Aaron Paul?
I think he kind of does. I could see it.
Super chat from CDP. Will Jalen buy into Mannion?
I mean, it is the $1 million question. It's the $1 million super chat question. And again, the Eagles will have a better idea of that than we will. My guess is that was front of mind for them, just like it was for us, you know, making sure that they hired somebody who had command over the room and that they felt like could work with Jalen in a productive fashion.
What do you think this means for Cameron Latu?
You know, I don't think that the Packers were a big 22 personnel team. They were not. So I'm not feeling great about it for Cam Latu. You know, to me, it probably, I mean, he's a quarterback's coach. He's a former quarterback. He's going to want to spread them out, 11 personnel. I don't know. I don't think it's great news for my boy Cam Latu.
All right. Well, that will do it for this emergency podcast presented by Xfinity. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. Remember, we are live tomorrow, 2:00. We will have much more to discuss on the Sean Mannion front, have more information, and hopefully talk to some people. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Thanks, EJ, for breaking the news. What did you make of the Eagles breaking the news and not giving it to a reporter?
I mean, it was definitely surprising. It's like, you know, a little to pull the listeners behind the curtain. I was across the street getting something to eat with a few of our colleagues. And I was halfway through a chicken cheesesteak when they hired an offensive coordinator. And I was like, I guess I'll just leave this here.
Oh no.
I was like, I don't want to bring it back here. It's gonna be cold by the time we finish working. But no, then it's kind of like, as a reporter, it's almost a relief when the team announces it, when you see it from somewhere else, because then you don't have to rush to confirm it. So you know, I was at least a little bit pleasantly surprised. But yeah, no, it was definitely surprising that they just got ahead of it.
You know what that means? That means they're mad. It means they're mad at the tenor of the national reporting of people saying that this Eagles job wasn't desirable, and so their way of getting back at Big National was to scoop them themselves. We're not doing you any favors if you're not going to do us any.
It's not a terrible read of the situation. That's all I'd say.
Interesting stuff. All right. Sean Mannion. Looking forward to getting to know him. So,
yeah, looking forward to talking about this tomorrow at 2:00 too.
Yeah,
it'll be good.
Let's do it. So join us then, please. Let us know what you think in the comments of the Sean Mannion hire. And that's all we got. For EJ and Ethan and Bree for setting it up, I'm Bo. We'll talk to you tomorrow at 2:00. And as always, we love you.
We all silly like the mayor.